Okay, we got it recording. Hi, everyone. My name is Robert Rowan. I'm a physician, and this is my really good friend, Dr Senn, a dentist. And we promised that we would have a presentation on mercury toxicity and um, how to, what it is. Because, and this is in honor of the Sonoma County firestorm victims and firefighters. The Press Democrat published that high levels of mercury are being found in firefighters. And it didn't offer any remedies. And I tried to communicate with the Press Democrat, but I think I'm a politically incorrect person
Very much so.
for this particular paper, so we got absolutely nowhere. So I took it to get a hold of Dr. Senn, who's a mercury-free dentist, so we can discuss the situation, which we think is rather, which can be serious. So, Dr. Senn, first thing I want to ask you is, how toxic is mercury?
Mercury is one of the most toxic substances on the earth. It is very easily encountered now because we release so much into the environment. It is in a variety of things in our homes. And when that fire broke out, the mercury was released in a gaseous form, which means that it went into everything around it. It went into the firefighters, it went into the homes around it, it went into the trees around it, it went into total security. And it's neurotoxic, very much neurotoxic. It's toxic to your whole system, toxic to your digestive system, it's toxic to your lungs, it's toxic to your, like I said before, especially your neurology. It can cause a whole host of problems, which includes inability to sleep, nauseous, nervousness, headaches, loss of appetite, different body functions fail. It's very, very toxic. In fact,
Well,
it can lead to death.
what happens if you take a mercury filling out of somebody's tooth?
If I take it out,
Yeah, you're allowed to put it in somebody's tooth, right?
okay, I'm allowed to put it in. I'm allowed. I don't, but I'm allowed to.
I know. But what happens if you take it out and you throw it in the schoolyard?
Well, let's say that I can put, let's use this example. I can put 10 mercury fillings.
Oh, wait a second, this stopped. Oh, no, it's going. Okay.
10
sorry
mercury
about that.
fillings in someone's tooth, especially a child's tooth. But let's say that I decide I'm going to take, just pull a tooth. I'm not going to take the mercury filling. I'm going to take the tooth out. It's a baby tooth. It's being lost. I have that tooth, and I say, gee, this kid, instead of putting it under his pillow, I'm going to take a little YouTube of it, me hiding it in the sandbox at the school. I'm going to really have this kid have fun. He's going to look for his tooth. He's going to get a quarter. So I YouTube this, and I put it out there for him. Well, next thing I know, if anybody sees it, any authority sees it in the community, anybody that's involved in any of the boards that watch for toxicity, the pollution board especially, and if they see that, I would not only be cited, I'd most likely be arrested, and I'd have to pay for the remediation of the sandbox. But I can put him in that kid's head.
You can put it in the kid's mouth, but if you take it out and put it in the sandbox where he's playing,
I'd be
you
arrested.
go to prison.
I'd go to jail probably. Definitely go to jail.
All right, that lets you know the significance of mercury and the craziness that's out there, and dentists are still putting this horrible poison into our mouths. Mercury is so toxic that it's found that just one atom of mercury is enough to disable a neuron, a brain neuron, correct?
It will destroy all the dendrites in the neuron. They did a study where they diluted mercury down so there was one molecule of mercury in the water. They had one live nerve cell. That nerve cell, when it encountered that one molecule,
One atom of mercury.
one atom of mercury, just shriveled up and died.
Shriveled up, it's like all of its dendrites. These are the dendrites. It just
shriveled up and died. However, that mercury atom did not go away. So if there's another dendrite,
it could hit that.
Hit that too. So it can go on until it gets locked up in some protein, and then what? Then where is it?
Well, you have to get it out.
You have to get it out.
That's the issue. Mercury is toxic in large part because it binds to the sulfur moiety, the sulfur part of proteins, and it can inactivate the protein, inactivate the enzyme, rendering it absolutely useless. And that's one of the ways that it kills. And I think it also can hit DNA. Mercury is associated with every known neurological disease. Mercury can cause autoimmune disease. It can cause craziness. The Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland, the Hatters used to lick the felt.
And they have mercurial compounds that make the felt stay on the hat. And they take their hands and they put it into that felt, and it made them go mad.
And they went mad. They got toxic from it.
And I will say, in my profession, I've been doing it 40 years. I've seen such personality changes in my colleagues that I know it's due to the mercury. Some of us detoxify easily, some of us don't. And the ones that don't, you don't know, they are different. I'll give you one example. I won't use his name. We called him the senator. He was Mr. Everybody. He would talk, he would go around the school. He would take pictures of him and all the people at the school. 30-year reunion. I said, where is this person? I said, he's not here. At the end of the dinner, I went up to get a little treat, and there he was in the corner, sitting with his wife and him. And I went, hey, how you doing? He goes, okay, just okay. Something had happened to him, and it looked like it was mercury poisoning. His bubbly, buoyant personality was now diffused. He became like lethargic and depressed.
So every known neurologic disease and every known probably psychiatric disease too.
Yes, without question, without question.
So we talked about how toxic it is. It's extraordinarily toxic, in parts probably per billion. It's synergistically toxic with lead.
Yeah.
Very synergistic, exponentially toxic. That's been published, and all of us have lead. And we talked about how it hits the cell. Where does the toxicity come from? Well, generally the toxicity is going to come from occupational exposure or handling it, liquid mercury, mining the mercury. Teeth, you're a dentist.
Teeth. It can also come from around us. We've had we live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and in the South Bay, it was known the mercury mines were down there. In fact, the name of the newspaper is still the Mercury News. And those mines, once open, still to this day leach mercury into the water. And there's a lake up above us where people ski called Clear Lake, and there are mercury mines up there, and they recommend not to eat the fish or do anything. They tested the birds in that lake that eat the fish. The levels are really high. And one of my dear friends who I worked with, all of a sudden she had high mercury levels, and no one knew where they came from. She's never exposed to anything. But she's a water skier. And she said, I never go in the water. I'm so good I never fall off my ski. I said, how about breathing that vapor all day long on a hot day? She's got very high levels.
Wow. You can get mercury from eating fish. Yes. We know it accumulates like in swordfish and large fish. But a new method is, if you live in a fire zone like we did, any mercury, and there's mercury sometimes in materials, there's mercury in background. People could have a vial of mercury in their house that they were using for gold or other things. It's going to be incinerated, and mercury is volatile. It boils just like water, and it goes into the air, and we're breathing it.
We're breathing it. And that fire it was so hot that the house would not catch on fire. It would heat up to this superheated temperature, and they would just explode. They'd explode. So think what it would do to mercury. Just drove it into the air, vaporized it, and those vapors were for weeks and months going through our community. And I lived close to the fire, and I looked at my house. I said, why is my house gray? And when I pressure washed it, all this material came down. My walls on the inside were covered with gray, and the floor was covered with gray. So it was pervasive. Everywhere that smoke went was loaded with mercury. Very, very sad.
Not all the gray was mercury, but there would be mercury. There's mercury in it. So then the next question comes up, how do you assess? Now, you can do blood levels of mercury, but the problem with mercury is it's got a very short life in blood. Mm-hmm. It wants to go into your brain, your liver. It wants to go into your tissues. So if you don't catch it at the right time, the blood test means nothing.
No, it means nothing.
So, and this is something the press Democrat would have missed because they're just they're not in the field. They're reporting what the conventional stuff is doing. I don't do blood tests for mercury. Some doctors do mercury hair tests. Now, I still got a little bit of hair.
Oh, you don't go. Enough said.
All right.
Go on.
I don't like hair tests because it's not necessarily reflective of what's really going on in you. For example, you can have high levels of mercury in your hair, but that might mean nothing more than your body has a good ability to get rid of the mercury, right?
Correct.
So that's a good sign if you have high levels of mercury, but it also could mean that you are poisoned with mercury. So it's a reasonable test to begin with.
All it says is you've been exposed to mercury and your body's excreting some of it. I don't know if all of it, but some of it. So it's a good place. Yes, there is mercury. Let's go to the next test.
The next test that I like and that I've done for years, since 1986 or 7, is called a mercury challenge test. And I've done many thousands of these, where in the past we used to give a compound called DMPS, dimercaptopropion sulfonate. And it came from Germany, and it is an extremely powerful mercury chelator. In the past, I gave it by IV, and then I switched over to orally because it's about 2/3 absorbed. So we would have you urinate in the morning, take the DMPS, collect your urine for 6 hours, and then send a sample of that off to a lab, and we would see how much mercury you have. The lab would report back. The advantage of that is we're seeing mercury come out in the urine. Now, some people would criticize it and saying you're loading the deck. You're giving a chelating agent and it's going to come out in the urine, so you're loading the deck on a problem that's not there. And I'm going to come back and say, why the hell is the mercury there?
Why is the hell the mercury is there to begin with? And what you're doing, I think, I look at it this way. I tell my patients this way: when you do a challenge, no one knows how much mercury is in your body. And it's like you're a farmer that's farming, let's say, pears. And all you're looking at is like, there are a few pears on the ground. And that's what it is. But wait a minute. Let's shake the trees. But I can't look at the trees. I can't look at the ground. They start shaking the trees and said, oh my goodness, we have a lot of pears.
Exactly.
Because you cannot tell just, but that's the blood test. What's on the ground? So he says, not much. No, let's shake these trees. I said, oh my goodness. And it's amazing what happens. The number can go high. And they go, good, I'm getting it out. I'm doing my work. And then the next time, it's like the pears have gotten riper. And you shake the trees and there's even more.
More can come out the next time. More can come out
the next time. So I always tell them, one challenge, use that. 2 challenges, use. On your 3rd challenge or 4th one, sometimes you can start seeing the decrease depending upon the load in your body. It's amazing.
Exactly.
No one knows what this is holding. The only way you can do is try to get it out till the number starts coming down.
I like that analogy of the trees and shaking the pear tree. Another analogy is, let's say you were trying to find a terrorist. Are you going to go out on the street, which is the blood circulation, or is the terrorist going to be hiding somewhere remotely in a room? Mercury is like a terrorist. He's going to go hiding remotely in a cell and poison the cell. So you've got to draw it out with the challenge. That's how I see it.
You have to draw it out with the challenge. There's a variety of challenges. I'm going to talk about a few new things I read about lately, some cool stuff that you could do maybe on a daily basis, but there's something Robert has been doing for years that is available to everybody. And you can do that too.
This test is a really nice test, but on the downside is you need to see a physician if you're going to do DMPS. There was a company called Merck out. I don't think they're in business anymore, and you could have contacted them to get a test. I like DMPS as the challenge. It's really hard to get now thanks to our draconian regulatory situation, but there's DMSA that's available, dimercaptosuccinic acid. I think that's it. Yeah. I don't like it because it's not as powerful as DMPS, and you really might miss a lot.
You're not shaking those trees very much with that.
Yes, you're just going
it's like light shake versus like this. Let's see what's in this thing.
Right. So as far as symptoms, we discuss mood, irritability, anything, autoimmune, but psychiatric, psychologic symptoms.
Whole health issues, vision, hearing problems, stomach aches, immune system problems, mood disorders, autoimmune disorders. I mean, the list goes on. So, and how common is this? I would say
Very
everybody. I'm sorry, everybody has it. It's very, very sad, but it's pervasive in our world. So
In Alaska, I remember a woman named Belinda. She was brought into my office in a wheelchair. Mercury was in every tooth in her mouth. She was in that bad shape. She was in a wheelchair, could barely do anything. I started treating her in my office with IV vitamin C and what I'm going to tell you how to detox mercury, just to get her strong enough to see the mercury-free dentist. She saw him. Over a period of a few weeks, I think, he got the mercury out. And then I heard months later with the detox program, she was living a fully functional life.
That can happen.
Isn't that amazing?
Get the mercury out and your body will heal. Everybody's body is amazing. You give it the right guidance, like getting this mercury out, it'll heal. It'll heal. There's no question. I've seen so many healings. Get that mercury out and they're happy, they're healthy, they're doing what they need to do to go on with their life.
So before we run out of space on this computer, I want to discuss treatment and follow-up and some pearls that you have.
Okay.
You and I have professionally discussed my treatment, which is really simple. Wouldn't you say?
Everybody should consider it. It's so simple and it works and it's safe. It isn't so quick that the mercury's going to come out so much you're having a toxic crisis. People do.
This is slow.
So it's slow. It's even better slow. The thing is now low and slow, and this does it. This is low and slow.
And it's cheap, and like I said, very safe and available, and you can do it at home. And for the firefighters, that's our first order of business here, is dealing with the firefighters. This is something you can do at home. Mercury, by chemical nature, is attracted to sulfur. And that's how it poisons you. It grabs sulfur in your proteins, as I mentioned. So when I realized this early in my career, I decided, well, I'm going to use sulfur-bearing compounds, nutritional supplements, which will have an affinity for mercury. Now we know that one of the body's principal detoxifiers is glutathione, and glutathione has sulfur, and it attracts heavy metals, lead, mercury, other heavy metals, and that's one of the body's principal ways of detoxifying you from metals. So anything we can do to increase glutathione or recycle glutathione probably would be a help. So I decided on just 4 items. One is selenium in the form of sodium selenite, inorganic selenium. Very cheap, 200 micrograms a day. And 1 atom of selenium will grab an atom of mercury, bind to it irreversibly, and inactivate it. Well, it doesn't get the mercury out, but at least the mercury now is dead.
Dead. It can't do anything.
Can't do anything to you. So at least you've inactivated that mercury, and I used 200 micrograms per day of sodium selenite. The next thing I used was alpha lipoic acid. It's got 2 sulfur groups on it. And in its own right, I believe it's a fine chelator grabber of mercury, like this. And I would use 100 milligrams 3 times a day. And alpha lipoic acid also raises glutathione. So that would be the next nutrient that I would use. Then I would use NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It's a precursor to glutathione. It's the active form of the amino acid cysteine, which is the sulfur-bearing amino acid for glutathione. I would use 500 milligrams 2 to 3 times per day, and that would be to try to raise glutathione levels. And then the 4th item that I used was vitamin C, because ascorbic acid or vitamin C, ascorbic acid might not be vitamin C, it probably has a lot of cofactors, but vitamin C recycles glutathione. So if you're taking vitamin C and you're spending glutathione, it helps to recycle it to get more. And those were the 4 core nutrients that I use literally on thousands of people in Alaska, and more continuing into California. And I follow these people with before and after DMPS challenges, which, as you agreed, is probably the cat's meow.
It's cat's meow.
And I would say that half of them would normalize their mercury in 3 months. Another 25% would normalize their mercury with another 3 months of treatment. And the final 25%, which I fell into, unfortunately, would took another 3 months. So 9 full months of this. And I had to do it because I had several mercury fillings that were removed in 1987. I was left with high levels on this challenge test. And I took these supplements for 9 months, and finally my levels came down, and they've been down ever since. And that's over 20 years. 30 years now,
30 years
actually.
now.
Do you have any comments on this?
It's so simple, so available, so cheap that I don't know why everybody doesn't do it. People can get involved in huge, difficult treatment modalities, and I can name 20 of them, but I'm not going to, and names that don't work nearly as good as this. At the best, they work as good as this, but they require a lot of investment in time, energy, and money.
Lots of money.
Lots of money. I'll tell you, some of these are expensive. I know the guy that makes his living with this. I won't mention his name, but I said that is not necessary. But that's what we find in some of our meetings. The things that they're doing are not necessary. I would like to mention a few things that I'm looking at. One was maitake mushrooms, and there is a peptide in maitake mushrooms that's great at detoxifying. So I dehydrate them, try to eat them, but you have to eat so many that they have to somehow move the peptide along. Another one, and Robert and I talked about this just this weekend, is tofu. Tofu has 3 molecules in it that help detoxify mercury. So they're calling.
Make sure it's organic.
Make sure it's organic. It has to be
Because
organic.
it's one of GMO frankenfood from Monsanto.
Get it. If it's not organic, don't touch the stuff. Okay. However, they're calling these, and you might see this name coming up. They're calling them functional foods. Foods that we should eat maybe on a daily basis, along with everything else, maybe along with the 4 things that Robert's lists on a daily basis. Because even when we are detoxified from mercury, cadmium, and lead, we turn around and we do something. We go to an airport, we get on the freeway, we just live in our homes or near a fire zone. We have purchased some things. We are getting retoxified on such an unfortunately quick basis that we should be considering a detoxification protocol in our diets every day. We should be.
I agree.
And you do that. You're
Well, I'm an organic raw food vegetarian. Yeah. I'm not 100% organic, but close.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% raw, but I'm close.
Yeah.
And I do eat some dairy.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered everything we wanted to, and I don't want to make this file too big.
No, don't make it too big. I believe. Let me double check my notes. Nope, that's it. We're good, I think. I wanted to mention that if we can start looking towards changing a couple things in our life, we could detoxify ourselves and our whole families. Some of these things that kids are on, these drugs that they're on, start with detoxification. Detox them.
And those 4 items that I mentioned are a basic detox for lots of stuff, not just mercury.
Yeah.
I want the viewer to know Dr. Senn is a mercury-free dentist. He does remove mercury under... And this video was not to advertise him or me. This was free information for you to do at home. But if you are concerned about mercury, you can be helped. You can get your levels checked. And if you have issues with mercury in your teeth, this is the guy to go to because he gets the mercury out under very controlled conditions.
I just was reading the numbers today, and actually polishing a mercury filling gives off more mercury vapor than removing it under protocol. So why are you leaving them in?
And polishing silver, quicksilver, mercury, to make it look pretty.
Yeah, why? I don't know, but it's... Oh, by the way, UCSF, the school I went to 40 years ago, is still putting them in.
Oh my God.
So just so you know, things have not changed. We're trying to change this world, but we change it one step at a time. And I really appreciate you listening to Robert and myself. And hopefully, if you have any questions, you'll text us or do something. And take this to your family and children, because we have to do this for our future. It's real important.
Well, the planet's going down.
The planet's going. It's real important to take. Right now, the big thing is you and your family. Let's take care of that. It's so important. That's the foundation of everything in this world. And Don't let those kids be taken over by the pharmaceutical industry. Please, please, I beg you. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, and look how long it took to find out that mercury was toxic, and now they're mandating vaccines, forcibly mandating vaccines.
That's all.
And we're not going to start on that because we're just going to. Solano and I will
start.
decompensate if we do. Thank you all for watching
I
this.
appreciate it. It's been wonderful. It's heartfelt that you even listened to me and Robert, and I look forward to doing more of these. Please,
we should do more.
We should do more. Please leave a post so we know what if you have any comments, what you want next. We're open. We've got some great topics.
And listen, you can always go to my YouTube channel where this might end up and look at the dental playlist, and you're going to see Dr. Senn and on the trail talking about all kinds of stuff and teeth and what we see.
Teeth and some other things, but
Yes.
teeth is
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank
you very much. Thank you.